Islam Makhachev. Who is this guy? This is the boogeyman of the UFC, the Grim Reaper, whatever you want to call him. He's one of the scariest men in the UFC in a long time. He's come out of nowhere and destroyed some very famous names. In this video, we're going to cover who he is and his background, who his family was, what his upbringing was, what made him the scary guy he is today. Islam was born on October 27th, 1991, in the capital of Dagestan, Russia, a city called Makhachev. Now, he actually grew up in a remote village outside Makhachev. This remote village was called Bershi. Now, this little village is so small that in the 2010 census, it was declared that the village had only 211 residents and only had one official street. Now, in such an isolated village like that, you pretty much know everybody. This probably influenced why today Islam continues to maintain a small circle of friends. He has a very small circle, and not much is really known about his private life today. He does have a wife. I believe he does have a daughter as well, but it's honestly hard to even find information on that. I've never seen such a private fighter before, but this could be, this could be a reasoning why. Just like the remote village he grew up in, he prefers to stay a little more isolated, a little more private, and blessings to him. Now, a lot of who we are comes down to who our parents were. What did they instill in us? Who were they? So who were Islam's parents? Now, Islam's dad, he was a very hardworking man, in this small village. He grew tomatoes at their house to sell to the local villagers. Alongside growing these tomatoes, he also worked as a local driver. If anybody in the village needed a ride somewhere, he was a local driver. So he was well known in this village. Islam's mother ran a small cafe, serving the local villagers. So Islam's parents were very hardworking people, and Islam has even credited his father in the past in an intimate photo he shared on his Instagram. Islam captioned saying that my father worked harder than I did to become champion. So, seeing this work ethic of the parents definitely rubbed off on Islam, and they did whatever they could for their children to give them a better life. And you'll see as the story develops, which included even moving them outside of the village, which they were so comfortable in. Like every other parent in the Dagestan region, Islam's parents instilled, discipline and hard work in their children, and there's no better way to do that than enlist your kid in martial arts. So that's what they did. Islam first got involved in martial arts at the age of 7 years old. He began practicing Taekwondo under a local legend. His name was Saifullah Magomedov. He was a 4-time European Taekwondo champion. So this man had represented Russia in the highest stages of Taekwondo, and he had the blessing of getting to teach Islam at a very young age. It was through Taekwondo and the training of Saifullah Magomedov that Islam first learned the basic techniques of fighting, of striking, of defense, of discipline, of patience, of calm. It was this where Islam was first introduced to the beauty of martial arts that will carry him throughout the rest of his career. While Taekwondo did form Islam's base for fighting, he did not stick with it for too long because soon he began picking up the other sport of Sanda. Now, Sanda is a more combative form of fighting. For those of you who do not know, not much is really known about Sanda in the Western world, but it's a form of Chinese kickboxing. So basically, from what I know, it's a mix of wrestling and kickboxing. It was developed by the Chinese military and combined traditional martial arts like Kung Fu, Shaojiao, and Qinna, as well as modern combat fighting techniques. So this introduced Islam to a realistic, a more combative form of fighting that mixed several martial arts into one. Unfortunately, Islam's stint with Sanda would also last for a short period. As I alluded to before, Islam's parents had to make the decision to move to a city further away for better opportunity for their family, for their kids. At this time, Islam put down the fighting and the gloves, and he picked up soccer. He did play soccer for 2 years, and he still continues to play to this day and, has formed friendships through soccer and still has a passion for it. Now, even though he did pick up soccer, the sport of fighting would call him back, and they always called him back. Islam first rejoined the martial arts world by picking up wrestling. Many of you know that his region of Dagestan is known as the wrestling capital of the world. They've produced many Olympic champions in all weight categories. So Islam picked up wrestling and trained with some of the best other youngsters in the world. Now, during this time, his longtime friend of Khabib Nurmagomedov had just turned professional into mixed martial arts and was having some early success. Islam saw this and wanted to train under him. And so he approached Khabib's father and asked him if he can train under him and Khabib. And Khabib's father took him in as a second son, and he did. Now, some of you do know that they were friends. For those of you who don't, how did they meet? They met at their elementary school. Before Islam moved out of Bershi, that's where he was in school with Khabib Nurmagomedov and Abdulkarim Nurmagomedov and Shamil Zuvarov. Now, this friendship would prove pivotal. They stayed close friends. They were, classmates together. And this was what brought Islam into the sport of Sambo. So after trying wrestling out, he saw the success Khabib was having through his Sambo, and he saw he just turned professional in fighting. And this what made Islam want to join his friend and see the success his friend have and think, hey, I can do that too. And luckily he made that decision, and Khabib's dad took him in, and the rest is history. While training Sambo alongside Khabib and his father, Islam studied at the Dagestan State University. Now, at the college, Islam studied physical education and sports. He got a job working nights as a security guard to support himself financially. Now, he was fortunate that through the security job, Islam at this time was going to competitions, Sambo competitions. But through the security job, he had a very good boss, and his boss allowed him to train during some work hours. And even when Islam had to go away for a competition, he even continued paying Islam's salary when he was away for training camp or for competitions. So he was very fortunate to have this great boss under him. Just like his friend Khabib, Islam also achieved some success in the Sambo combat arena. In February of 2014, Islam won the 74-kilogram division at the Russian National Combat Sambo Championship. It qualified for the World Championship held in Japan. Now, unfortunately, he was unable to compete in the World Championship because he discovered a heart condition that required treatment. Islam won the 74-kilogram division again at the 2016 national champion, once again qualifying him for the World Championship. So this time, he wasn't disqualified based on his heart condition. He was able to get that cleared out. He went to the competition, and he won gold at the 2016 World Combat Sambo Championships. In fact, he won so convincingly that in the final, he beat his opponent, Valentin Benishlev of Bulgaria, 7-0 in the gold medal match. While achieving the highest level of success in Sambo, Islam was also still fighting. He began fighting professionally as well. The MMA professional company that signed Islam, the first promotion, was called M1 Global. Now, this is a large professional fighting organization based out of St. Petersburg, Russia. He actually had made his debut with M1 Global, his first ever professional fight, on the 12th of February 2011, and he won that fight via KO in the first round. Now, in his very second fight, he faced Mansour Barnarouni on the 9th of April 2013 at M1 Challenge 38. He won again via unanimous decision. He then faced the undefeated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Rander Junio, on the 21st of August 2013 at M1 Challenge 41. He once again won via unanimous decision. So Jiu-Jitsu wasn't going to be a problem for him. He then faced M1 Global Yuri Ivlev on the 7th of June of 2014. He dominated the fight. He beat up Ivlev with punches, and then he finished the fight via submission with armbar. So again, he's showing lots of success. And again, on his next fight on the 7th of September 2014, this was his last fight before actually signing with the UFC. He defeated Ivica Trusek via submission in the third round. So he went all these fights undefeated before being signed by the UFC. On the 2nd of October 2014, Islam was able to sign a 4-year fight contract with the UFC. His very first fight was against Leo Kuntz on May 23rd, 2015 at UFC 187. Islam won in the second round by submission. Now, he then faced Adriano Martins on October 2015 at UFC 182. Islam will go down as having his first career loss in this fight in professional fighting. He lost via knockout in the very first round. Now, to date, this is still his only loss in MMA. Now, he faced a little bit of issue in his third fight where he was expected to face Drew Dober at on April 2016, UFC Fox 19. But after the weigh-ins, the UFC announced that the bout was canceled because Islam Makhachev failed a out-of-competition drug test. He was positive for a banned anti-ischemic meldonium. Now, this is actually was found out that USADA lifted the ban on this after finding out this drug was actually used by Islam to treat his heart condition. As I said earlier in the video, he had that heart condition that even prevented him from competing in Sambo World Championship. This was to prevent blood clotting in his heart. So after USADA, discovered this, they lifted the ban, and luckily he was able to compete again. And on the 17th of September 2016, he faced Chris Wade at UFC Fight 994. Islam won via unanimous decision. He faced Nick Lentz at UFC 208. He won the fight by unanimous decision again. He then was supposed to fight Michael Prezeris on September 2017, UFC Fight Night 115, but Islam pulled out due to religious reasons. He then fought Gleison Tibau, UFC 220. Islam won the fight by knockout in just 57 seconds in the first round. And the story goes on. As you know, Islam will go on to have very successful fights. Some notable victories, including his UFC 280 victory over Charles Oliveira, his UFC 284 victory against Volkanovski, and then the rematch, his victory against at UFC 294 against Volkanovski again. His win over Dustin Poirier, UFC 302, where he earned Performance of the Night and Fight Night Awards totaling $100K. He won via Darce choke. Now, his success will go on, and we know his career is going to just keep achieving more success. He's scheduled to, as to making this video, fight at UFC 311 versus Sarukian. The rematch, he had beat him earlier in the past, and so we will see how this will go. It's important to know, I didn't note this earlier, but Islam's always surrounded by great friendship and great people in his life. We have to also give credit to his brother, where Islam has even said that when I couldn't afford to compete, when he was a professional and he just couldn't afford to compete in Sambo or his early career in MMA, his brother ended up getting a second job to pay the money so that he could go to competitions. And his brother's name in their language actually means sacrifice as well. So Islam is a man that comes from a humble family, hardworking region of the world, and he's a guy who worked blood, sweat, and tears for everything he has today, and it's clear in the results that he's achieving, and it's clear in the results that he will continue to achieve through his discipline and through his hard work. Thank you for watching this video. If you're new, please hit the subscribe button.